Welcome to History Love, where we explore the stories, people, and events that shaped our world. Let's dive into the past and uncover history's most fascinating moments. History of Mexico. The dawn of Mexico, a saga of survival and civilization. Long before the towering pyramids of the Aztecs or the intricate cities of the Maya, Mexico was a land of wandering hunters, a vast and untamed wilderness where early humans pursued great beasts across an ancient landscape. Some say they arrived as early as 40,000 years ago, crossing frozen expanses from distant lands, but their true origins remain a mystery. In the shadow of the last ice age, these resilient settlers hunted mammoths and roamed the valleys of central Mexico. As the world warmed, the mighty beasts vanished, forcing them to adapt. They became gatherers, finding sustenance in the wild fruits and seeds of the land. Then, something extraordinary happened. In the fertile soils of Tehuacan Valley, they tamed nature itself. A wild grass, maize, was nurtured, its tiny kernels gradually transformed into the golden crop that would one day feed empires. With it came avocados, chilies, beans, and squash, the lifeblood of a new way of life. As their knowledge grew, so did their settlements. Pithouse villages rose from the earth, and the first potters shaped clay into vessels, hinting at the great civilizations yet to come. The people of Mexico had begun their journey, from nomadic survival to the dawn of empire. The rise of civilization, Mexico's first cities and the legacy of the Olmecs. By 2000 BC, the scattered villages of early Mexico had begun to transform. No longer mere clusters of huts, they grew into organized communities, their survival fueled by agriculture. In the fields, farmers perfected the art of cultivation, crossbreeding crops and expanding their harvests. In the valleys and forests of the south, and even in the drylands near what is now the U.S. border, agriculture took root, shaping the destiny of an entire civilization. As centuries passed, simple farming villages gave way to something greater. Leaders emerged, ruling from politico-religious centers where stone monuments replaced perishable wood and reeds. By 1000 BC, the Olmecs, Mexico's first great civilization, rose in the lush lands of Veracruz and Tabasco. At San Lorenzo and La Venta, they sculpted colossal stone heads, their faces staring across the ages, hinting at a people both powerful and enigmatic. Their art, marked by jaguar-like deities and exquisite jade carvings, spread its influence across Mesoamerica, inspiring generations to come. Then came the late formative period, an age of intellect and order. The first glyphs of written language appeared, intricate calendars measured time with precision, and the earliest cities took shape. Among them, Teotihuacan emerged, a sprawling metropolis in the Valley of Mexico, where towering pyramids touched the heavens and a grand boulevard, the Avenue of the Dead, bore witness to a new era of urban civilization. The seeds of empire had been planted. From the Olmecs to the builders of Teotihuacan, the ancestors of Mexico's great civilizations had laid the foundation for the mighty cultures yet to come. The Classic Age, the rise and fall of Mesoamerica's golden era. As the late formative period faded into history, a new age of grandeur emerged, the Classic Period, a time when art, science, and architecture flourished like never before. Deep in the jungles of the Maya lowlands, cities such as Tikal, Uaxactan, and Copan rose from the earth, their towering temples reaching for the sky. By 300 CE, these urban centers had become the beating heart of a vast and sophisticated civilization. Maya artisans perfected their craft, creating stunning polychrome ceramics and intricate carvings, while their architects mastered the corbelled vault, giving their temples a sense of divine majesty. As the centuries passed, the Maya world reached its zenith. The late Classic Period, 600 to 900 CE, saw a golden age of knowledge and spirituality. Astronomers and mathematicians devised a calendar so precise that it rivaled even modern calculations. Monumental stelae, inscribed with sacred dates and royal histories, stood as eternal testaments to their achievements. The Maya ruled not only through power but through intellect, mapping the heavens and measuring the passage of time with astonishing accuracy. But all golden ages must end. By the 9th century, cracks began to appear in this magnificent world. The great city of Teotihuacan, once a thriving metropolis and the political heart of the Valley of Mexico, was engulfed in flames around 750 CE. Its temples were abandoned, its streets left to the encroaching jungle. The cause of its destruction remains a mystery. Was it war, rebellion, or an ecological disaster? In the void left by Teotihuacan's fall, a new force emerged. From the rugged north, the Toltecs swept into central Mexico, bringing with them a warrior's might and a scholar's wisdom. They carved out a new capital, Tula, and established themselves as the next great power in Mesoamerica. The stage was set for a new era of conquest, culture, and transformation. The torch had been passed, but the echoes of the classic period would forever shape the destiny of Mexico. The post-classic era, the age of warriors and empires. As the great cities of the classic period crumbled, a new, harsher world arose from their ruins. The post-classic period was an age of war, conquest, and transformation. The old traditions of art and architecture remained, but now they bore the mark of militarism. Fortified cities, walls of stone, and warriors etched into reliefs. In the lush lands of the Yucatan, the mighty Chichen Itza, once a beacon of Maya power, fell from its throne around 1200 CE. In its wake, the Maya staged a brief resurgence, retreating behind the fortified walls of Mayapan, their last great capital. Yet, their civilization, once known for its scholars and astronomers, had forever changed. Meanwhile, far to the west, a new empire rose, a force unlike any before. From the island city of Tenochtitlan, rising from the waters of Lake Texcoco, the Aztecs emerged. Fierce and ambitious, they expanded their reach, forging an empire that would stretch across Middle America. This was the dawn of a new power, one that would shape the destiny of Mexico until the fateful arrival of foreign invaders. The age of the gods and pyramids was drawing to a close. The age of conquest was about to begin. The rise of the Aztecs, from nomads to masters of an empire. From the distant land of Aztlan, where legend says their journey began, the Aztecs wandered across the rugged landscapes of ancient Mexico, searching for a sign, a divine omen that would reveal their destined home. They were not yet the mighty rulers of Tenochtitlan, but a displaced tribe, caught in the tide of history as powerful civilizations rose and fell around them. In the heart of Mexico, the mighty Toltec Empire had crumbled, its once glorious capital, Tula, reduced to ruins by war and rebellion. In its wake, waves of new settlers arrived, Acalua, Chichimex, Tepanex, and the Aztecs, all seeking power in a fractured world. But the Aztecs were different. Though they were seen as lowly outsiders, mere wanderers, they carried with them the will of their god, Huitzilopochtli, the fierce sun deity who demanded both loyalty and sacrifice. For years the Aztecs roamed, refining their skills, learning from those they encountered. Then in 1325 their pilgrimage came to an end. On a small, swampy island in Lake Texcoco, they saw it, the eagle perched on a cactus devouring a serpent. It was the sign they had waited for, and here they built their city. Tenochtitlan, a jewel rising from the waters, destined to become the greatest city in Mesoamerica. Surrounded by more powerful neighbors, the Aztecs at first played the role of mercenaries, fighting in the wars of the Tepanecs. But their ambition was boundless. By 1428, under the leadership of Itzcoatl and his brilliant advisor Tlacaelel, the Aztecs turned on their former allies, crushed them in battle, and seized control of the Valley of Mexico. With the foundation of the Triple Alliance, the Aztecs forged an empire that stretched across nearly all of present-day Mexico. Their success was built on three forces. Religion, Huitzilopochtli, the sun god, required constant nourishment, human blood. War was not just conquest, it was a divine duty, a means of gathering captives for sacrifice. Economy, the fertile lands of the Valley of Mexico provided vast resources, while tribute from conquered cities flooded into Tenochtitlan, enriching the empire. Socio-political organization, a disciplined military, a rigid social hierarchy, and an iron-fisted ruling elite ensured the Aztecs maintained order and dominance. By the dawn of the 16th century, the Aztecs had built a civilization rivaling the greatest empires of the world. Their capital, Tenochtitlan, dazzled all who saw it. Temples and palaces soared above the canals, marketplaces bustled with goods from across the empire, and at the heart of it all, the great Templo Mayor, where warriors fulfilled their sacred duty to feed the gods with the blood of their enemies. But even as they stood at the height of their power, a storm was approaching from across the sea, one that would change the fate of the Aztecs forever. The conquest of Mexico, the fall of the Aztec Empire. In 1517 and 1518, whispers of a wealthy land beyond the sea reached the ears of Diego Velázquez, governor of Cuba. Seeking to uncover the truth, he dispatched Francisco Hernández de Córdoba and Juan de Grijalba to explore the shores of Yucatan and the Gulf of Mexico. Their reports spoke of great cities, gold, and powerful rulers. These tales set in motion one of history's most dramatic encounters, the conquest of the Aztec Empire. Velázquez entrusted a new expedition to a bold and ambitious conquistador, Hernán Cortés. But Cortés, driven by his own thirst for glory, soon broke ties with his patron. In November 1518 he set sail for Mexico, funding much of the journey himself. Upon landing he quickly established the city of Veracruz, a move that freed him from Velázquez's authority and allowed him to claim Mexico in the name of King Charles I of Spain. Meanwhile, in Tenochtitlan, rumors swirled of mysterious visitors arriving on floating mountains, bearded men clad in shining armor, riding strange beasts and wielding thunderous weapons. These reports troubled Montezuma II, the ruler of the Aztecs, who feared that these newcomers might be the return of the god Quetzalcoatl, as foretold in prophecy. Cortés and his 500 Spaniards, though vastly outnumbered, possessed advantages unknown to the Aztecs: steel swords, muskets, crossbows, cannons and armored war horses. But his greatest weapon was diplomacy. Learning of the hatred many indigenous groups felt toward the Aztecs, he forged alliances with the Tlaxcalans, Totonacs and other oppressed tribes. These warriors, numbering in the tens of thousands, became the backbone of his campaign. Upon reaching Tenochtitlan, Cortés was welcomed by Montezuma in November 1519. Awed by Spanish technology and uncertain of their divine nature, the emperor allowed them into the city. But Cortés soon seized Montezuma, using him as a puppet to rule through fear. The uneasy alliance collapsed in 1520, when Spanish forces massacred Aztec nobles during a festival, igniting rebellion. The enraged Aztecs drove the Spaniards out of the city in La Noche Triste, the Night of Sorrows. But disease and betrayal sealed the fate of the empire. Smallpox, brought by the Spaniards, swept through Tenochtitlan, killing thousands, including Montezuma's successor Cuitlahuac. Meanwhile, Cortés regrouped, amassing a massive indigenous army. In May 1521 he laid siege to Tenochtitlan, cutting off food and water. For 3 months the Aztecs, now led by Cuauhtémoc, fought desperately. But on August 13, 1521, the mighty city fell. In the ruins of Tenochtitlan, the Spaniards erected a new capital, Mexico City. On the shattered remains of the Templo Mayor, a Christian cathedral rose, symbolizing the end of an empire and the dawn of Spanish rule in the Americas. The expansion of Spanish rule in the Americas. Following their conquest of the Aztec Empire, the Spanish wasted no time in extending their control over the rest of Mesoamerica. By 1525, they had subdued most of southern Mexico, reaching as far as Guatemala and Honduras. However, the dense jungles and fiercely independent Maya societies of the Yucatan Peninsula proved far more challenging. Francisco de Montejo led Spanish efforts to conquer the region beginning in 1526, but due to harsh terrain and relentless Maya resistance, it took nearly 20 years before the Spaniards could claim the northern part of the peninsula. Some Maya groups in the interior remained independent for another 150 years. Spanish expansion into northern Mexico. While the conquest of central and southern Mexico progressed rapidly, the northern frontier presented a different challenge. This arid, sparsely populated region was not as immediately appealing to the Spanish as the gold-rich lands of the Aztecs and Maya. However, 3 main factors drove Spain's interest in northern Mexico. The search for precious metals, particularly silver, which was later discovered in great quantities. The need to protect Spanish settlements from raids by nomadic indigenous groups, such as the Apache and Comanche. Preventing European rivals, especially the British and French, from encroaching on Spanish territory. Between 1530 and 1536, Nuno de Guzman led the conquest of Jalisco and other Pacific coastal regions. The indigenous peoples of Jalisco rebelled in 1541, sparking the Mixton War, which was only quelled after intense fighting. A major turning point in northern expansion came in 1546, when the Spanish discovered vast silver deposits in Zacatecas. Further finds in Guanajuato and San Luis Potosí drew waves of Spanish settlers, leading to the rapid colonization of north-central Mexico. Myths of gold and exploration of the American Southwest. Legends of El Dorado and the 7 cities of gold fueled Spanish expansion even further. Álvar Núñez Cabeza de Vaca, a survivor of a 1528 shipwreck off the Texas coast, spent 8 years wandering through northern Mexico and returned with tales of rich civilizations. Inspired by his stories, Francisco Vázquez de Coronado embarked on a grand expedition 1540 to 1542, venturing as far north as Kansas in search of these mythical cities, only to find empty plains and indigenous villages instead. Although these early explorers did not find gold, their expeditions laid the groundwork for future Spanish settlements in what is now the U.S. Southwest. However, the conquest of northern Mexico and the American Southwest would take much longer and involve bitter conflicts with indigenous peoples. The role of missions and colonization. To consolidate their rule over the north, Franciscan and Jesuit missionaries were among the first Spaniards to settle in the region. They established missions, aiming to convert indigenous peoples to Christianity while also serving as outposts of Spanish authority. These missions, combined with military presidios, forts, formed the backbone of Spanish control in the northern frontier. By the late 1500s, Spanish settlements had extended into what is now the United States. The first permanent Spanish settlement in North America was founded in Florida, St. Augustine, in 1565. In 1598, Juan de Oñate led the conquest of New Mexico, but Spanish control faced strong opposition. The Pueblo Rebellion of 1680 temporarily expelled the Spanish, and they were unable to reclaim New Mexico until 1694. Spanish rivalries and the fight for North America. Spain's northern expansion was not just driven by internal motives, it was also a reaction to European rivals. When France established colonies in Louisiana, Spain countered by settling Texas. Fearing Russian expansion along the Pacific, the Spanish established settlements in California. Throughout the 18th century, Spain was embroiled in boundary disputes with Britain, France, and later the United States. These tensions were formally addressed in the Adams-Onis Treaty of 1819, in which Spain ceded Florida to the United States but maintained control over Texas, New Mexico, and California. However, Spanish rule in the Americas was beginning to weaken, and within a few decades, revolutions would dismantle the Spanish Empire in the New World. Colonial Mexico and the Road to Independence, 1701 to 1821. Social changes in colonial Mexico. As Spanish rule stabilized, more Spanish women emigrated to New Spain, often bringing dowries that made them highly sought after for marriage. Despite the patriarchal structure of colonial society, Spanish women could inherit property, and by the late colonial period, some women even ran businesses or managed rural estates. Bourbon reforms and administrative changes. The War of the Spanish Succession, 1701 to 1713, led to a major shift in governance when the Bourbons replaced the Habsburgs on the Spanish throne. The new Bourbon kings, especially Charles III, introduced reforms to increase economic efficiency and modernize administration. In 1784, Charles III reorganized New Spain into 18 intendancies, each led by an intendant with broad authority to promote economic development, education, and social improvements. Inspired by the Enlightenment, Mexico saw advances in science, mining, and agriculture, influenced by ideas from Europe and the American Revolution. As Britain and Russia threatened Spanish colonies, Madrid encouraged the formation of local militias, granting privileges, fueros, to Creole officers, which later fueled the desire for independence. The impact of Napoleon and the start of the independence movement. In 1808, Napoleon Bonaparte invaded Spain, deposed King Ferdinand VII, and installed his brother Joseph Bonaparte as king. This led to a crisis in Spanish America. Spanish officials in New Spain received conflicting orders, causing political instability. The Spanish Cortes of 1812 introduced a liberal constitution, but confusion and division led to rebellions in Mexico. Miguel Hidalgo and the Cry for Independence, 1810 to 1811. The most significant rebellion was led by Father Miguel Hidalgo, a priest in Dolores. On September 16, 1810, Hidalgo issued the Grito de Dolores calling for an end to Spanish rule, equality among races, land redistribution. Hidalgo's army of indigenous peasants and Creoles marched into Guanajuato, but lost control of the revolt, leading to massacres and looting. Royalist forces defeated Hidalgo at the Battle of Calderon Bridge, 1811. He was captured and executed on July 31, 1811. José María Morelos and organized resistance, 1811 to 1815. Hidalgo's cause was taken up by José María Morelos, who led a disciplined rebel army in southern Mexico. In 1813, Morelos convened a congress in Chilpancingo that declared independence. In 1814 he drafted the Apatzingan Constitution, promoting a republican government. However, after Ferdinand VII regained power in Spain, he sent troops to crush the rebellion. Morelos was captured and executed in 1815, but guerrilla fighters continued the resistance. The Unexpected Path to Independence, 1820 to 1821. Ironically, Mexican independence was not won by radical revolutionaries but by conservative elites. In 1820, Spanish liberals forced Ferdinand VII to reinstate the 1812 Constitution, alarming Mexican conservatives who feared liberal reforms. Agustín de Iturbide, a royalist Creole general, secretly negotiated with rebel leader Vicente Guerrero to form a new movement. In 1821 they issued the Plan de Iguala, which declared Mexico's independence, established Roman Catholicism as the state religion, promised equality for Spaniards and Mexicans, proposed a constitutional monarchy under Ferdinand VII or another European prince. With Iturbide and Guerrero's forces united, Spain was powerless to stop the movement. The Treaty of Córdoba, August 24, 1821, officially ended Spanish rule, creating the Mexican Empire. Conclusion: a conservative independence. Ironically, Mexico gained independence from a temporarily liberal Spain under conservative leadership. The newly independent Mexican Empire was short-lived, but the seeds of political conflict were already planted, shaping Mexico's turbulent future. The independence of Mexico and the rise of the First Mexican Empire, 1821 to 1823. Mexican independence, 1821. Although the Spanish crown initially refused to recognize Juan Ordóñez's acceptance of Mexican independence, the Treaty of Córdoba, August 24, 1821, effectively ended Spanish rule. This date is now recognized as Mexico's official separation from Spain. The short-lived Mexican Empire, 1821 to 1823. After gaining independence, Mexico faced internal divisions between monarchists and republicans. Their only common goal, independence from Spain, was now achieved and ideological conflicts quickly surfaced. Iturbide's rise as emperor. Agustín de Iturbide initially became president of a council of regents while a congress drafted a constitution. Central American provinces, which had been part of New Spain, chose to separate from Mexico and form their own nations. On May 18, 1822, military factions in Mexico City proclaimed Iturbide as Emperor Agustín I. Congress ratified the decision, and Iturbide was crowned on July 21, 1822 in a lavish coronation ceremony. Collapse of the Mexican Empire. Despite international recognition, notably from the United States in December 1822, Iturbide's rule quickly became unstable. Conflict with Congress. Iturbide dismissed the legislature on October 31, 1822, replacing it with an appointed junta of 45 men. Revolt against Iturbide. Antonio López de Santa Anna, a rising military leader, led a rebellion in Veracruz, December 2, 1822, demanding that Mexico become a republic. Many liberal leaders and military factions joined the movement. Abdication and execution. Facing overwhelming opposition, Iturbide abdicated and went into European exile. In 1824 he returned to Mexico, but authorities arrested and executed him. Legacy and the future of Mexico. The fall of the First Mexican Empire marked the beginning of political instability in Mexico. Over the next decades, the nation would struggle between conservative and liberal factions, with figures like Santa Anna dominating its politics. The early Republic of Mexico, 1824 to 1836. Challenges of the new republic. Following independence, Mexico struggled with political and economic instability. Lack of experience in self-government. Until 1824, Mexicans had never governed themselves under a republican system. Economic decline. Mining, the backbone of the colonial economy, had collapsed due to years of war. Many Spaniards fled Mexico, taking their wealth and expertise with them. Mexico's national debt soared due to excessive foreign borrowing. The army frequently revolted when not paid, leading to coups and financial instability. Social struggles. Indigenous people lost their colonial protections, worsening their condition. The abolition of slavery in 1829 was more symbolic than impactful, as slavery had already declined. The Constitution of 1824 and political divisions. The Constitution of 1824 established a federal republic consisting of 19 states, 4 territories, and the Mexico City Federal District. A government divided into executive, legislative, and judicial branches. 2 major political factions emerged. Centralists, conservatives, favored a strong central government and a national army. Supported Catholicism as the exclusive religion. Federalists, liberals, advocated for autonomous states and local militias. Opposed the privileges of the church and military, fueros. Frequent changes in government, 1824 to 1836. Power shifted frequently between Federalists and Centralists. 1824, Guadalupe Victoria, Federalist, became Mexico's first president. 1828, Centralists took power. 1829, Vicente Guerrero, Federalist, became president but was soon overthrown. 1833, Federalists returned to power but were replaced in 1836 by Centralists, who remained in control for a decade. This political instability set the stage for military interventions and future conflicts, including the secession of Texas and the rise of Antonio López de Santa Anna as a dominant political figure. The Age of Santa Anna, Texas and the Mexican-American War 1833–1854. Santa Anna's rise to power. Antonio López de Santa Anna became Mexico's dominant political figure. First elected president in 1833, he often ruled indirectly or was overthrown and reinstated multiple times. He frequently shifted political alliances based on convenience. Texas Rebellion 1836. Thousands of U.S. settlers moved into Texas, worrying the Mexican government. In 1830, Mexico banned further U.S. immigration, fueling tensions. In 1836, Santa Anna's new centralist constitution abolished states' rights, leading Texas to declare independence. Santa Anna defeated Texan forces at the Alamo but was later captured at San Jacinto, April 1836. Mexico refused to recognize Texas's independence, but it did not attempt to reconquer it. Mexican-American War 1846–1848. The U.S. annexed Texas in 1845, angering Mexico. Dispute over the Texas-Mexico border. Mexico claimed the Nueces River as the border. The U.S. claimed the Rio Grande. After a border skirmish in 1846, U.S. President James K. Polk declared war. Key battles. Early U.S. victories. The U.S. quickly occupied California and New Mexico. Battle of Buena Vista, February 1847. Santa Anna was defeated despite his larger army. Battle of Cerro Gordo, April 1847. The U.S. Army defeated Santa Anna on the way to Mexico City. Fall of Mexico City, September 1847. U.S. forces captured the capital, forcing Santa Anna into exile. Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo 1848. Mexico ceded nearly half of its territory. Present-day California, Nevada, Utah, Arizona, New Mexico, and parts of Colorado, Oklahoma, and Wyoming. The U.S. paid $15 million and assumed $3.25 million in Mexican debts. Mexicans in the ceded territory were given U.S. citizenship rights, but many faced discrimination. Santa Anna's last stand 1853–1854. In 1853, he returned as dictator and declared himself, His Most Serene Highness. Gadsden Purchase 1854. Sold land in southern Arizona and New Mexico to the U.S. for $10 million. Marked the final U.S.-Mexico boundary adjustment. Santa Anna was overthrown in 1855, ending his political career. Conclusion. Santa Anna's era was marked by political instability, territorial losses, and U.S. expansionism under manifest destiny. His authoritarian rule and military failures led to Mexico's territorial decline and long-term internal struggles. La Reforma 1854–1857. Mexico's liberal revolution. Background and causes. Post-Mexican-American War. Mexico's defeat 1848 highlighted the country's weaknesses. A new liberal generation, including Benito Juárez, sought modernization and reforms. Santa Anna's dictatorship 1853–1855 increased opposition. Liberal rebellion 1854–1855. Juan Alvarez and Ignacio Comonfort led a liberal uprising, forcing Santa Anna into exile 1855. This marked the beginning of La Reforma, aimed at ending colonial-era privileges and modernizing Mexico. Key reforms. Ley Juárez, November 23, 1855. Abolished military and ecclesiastical courts for civil cases. Ensured equal legal treatment for all citizens. Ley Lerdo, June 25, 1856. Forced the Catholic Church and indigenous communities to sell excess land. Aimed to create a nation of small landowners. Constitution of 1857, promulgated February 12, 1857. Abolished slavery and protected freedom of speech and press. Banned religious and civil corporations from owning land. Strengthened central executive power. Defined Mexico as a representative, democratic republic. Impact. Clash with conservatives, leading to the Reform War 1858–1861. Long-term foundation for Mexico's modern legal system. The Constitution of 1857 remained in force until 1917, shaping Mexico's political future. Thanks for joining us on this journey through history. If you love this story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to History Love. Together, let's keep the love for history alive. See you in the next chapter.